All right, so today we're going to take you through the process of how to make one of these paper rockets. All right, there's a couple examples, different size fins you can see, so you can play with that. And we'll be launching those rockets out of something similar to this rocket launcher, right? So it goes in there, pressurizes it, and launches it up. So let's get started. We have two sheets of cardstock, one full sheet and one half sheet. We have a 3/4 inch EMT, which is electrical conduit. You can pick this up at any hardware store. It's relatively cheap, comes in like 8-10 foot pieces, and cut it down to somewhere that's just a little bit bigger than the piece of paper in the long direction. All right, we got some Scotch tape, scissors, ruler or straight edge, doesn't matter, glue stick. We have a couple pennies here that we're going to use to weigh down the nose. And then finally, we have this piece of 7/8 inch polyurethane foam tubing. All right, so let's get started. And what you're going to do is you're going to roll this rocket right in this direction. One thing you got to be careful of here, you got to be sure that when you roll it, it's going to roll straight. So you try to do a good job of seeing where it's going to end up as you roll it. Move it back. Get your glue stick. And put a good bead of glue there, right, or a good nice amount of glue, and then you start rolling. And it's important here, like I said, keep it tight, right, because the tighter you make it here, the better it's going to launch. So use all 4 fingers, all 8 fingers there to try to get that rolled in really tightly underneath there. Just keep on rolling. Once you get about this far, come back with your glue stick and hit it again, right, hit it all the way across, all the way to the edge. Make sure you get a nice good amount of glue on that edge over there. So you can do that and just keep rolling it, keep it nice and tight. And when you get to the edge, you just kind of want to roll it back and forth on that edge. Come back with a piece of Scotch tape and you're going to tape up that seam. So we're trying to make this as perfectly as round as possible. Make sure you get the entire seam. Now for the next step, you can just leave your rocket, make sure it slides out, right? But leave it on the tube, and then you're going to start making your wings, right? So this is where your fins. You got a half sheet. There's several things you can do. I have a couple examples here. So this is a single piece of cardstock, right? And this is going to go on the rocket in this direction. You can see when I've cut it, one flap is bent one way, the other flap is bent the other way, so you can tape it and glue it down that way. This is a little smaller fin, just fold it in one direction. Or you can double it up, right? So this is one piece, folded it over. Now you have these 2 attach tabs, and you can attach it that way, right? So that's a couple examples. I'll take you through the process of making one of these. So you get your half sheet of cardstock and fold it again in the long direction. You got to be careful when you're making your fin. You got to remember you're going to open it up, and you want this side that's open is the side that's going to go attached to your rocket, right? So don't go putting thinking it's on this side. So now you can go ahead and make your fin. Right here you can use a ruler just to make a straight edge, and here you can decide is how big you want your fin to be, right? Think about, so this is the way it's going to stick out into your rocket. Do you want it to go all the way across and stick out? Do you just want it to go halfway? So usually I just go around somewhere around there, right? You can measure that down, 3.8. Right. Then you can just put whatever shape you want to your fin, right? I want my fin to look something like that. And then that's going to come out. You want this tab to come out maybe about 1/2 inch, which is about the size of your nail there. Because when you go tape it around, you tape 3 of them around, 1/2 inch on each side will get you nice, clean, where they all fit. If you're going to make 4, you got to make this a little shorter. But so about 1/2 inch, it doesn't have to be too exact. All right, and now you go ahead and cut it. So you got your first fin there. And what you want to do now is you take this one and you make exact copies of it, right? So the way you do that is you line it up to the edge, trace it out. All right, so you want to do 3 fins. Here you go. So now you got your 3 fins. They're all the same size, all the same shape, and that's exactly what you want. So now what you want to do, open this up, and you're going to want to fold one tab in one direction, the other tab out in the other direction, right? Trying to keep them as even as possible. The fin's gonna look like this, so you gotta glue them together. So you get your glue stick, cover one side. Don't have to worry about doing the flap that's gonna go connected to the rocket right now. You just wanna get this seam, so it's, and then line it up to make sure it's nice and straight. Do that to the rest of them. All right, the next step is attaching it to the rocket body, and you want to leave your rocket body on the EMT because it makes it easier when you want to go tape this on and glue it on, that you can push down on it without crushing the rocket body. So you get your first fin, get a nice amount of glue on there, and then you attach it to wherever you want to attach it, right? One thing to try to keep in mind here is you want that fin to be as perfectly straight as possible, right? And then we have the last one here. Right, so that you got it glued down, what you're gonna want to do is come back with some tape and tape those down. One thing to be careful is your leading edge right there. You got to be sure that if there's a gap in there, you got to fill that gap in with tape. What you don't want to do is launch your rocket and have the air come in there, and it's going to want to peel away at your fin. So you try to tape that. But you continue on and tape all of your fins down. There you go. So now you have your rocket, you got your fins in there. So the next step left is we got to work on the nose cone, right? So here, this piece of foam is what you're going to use as your nose cone, right? And we talked about using a couple pennies to weigh it down. The other piece you're going to need, other equipment, is a hot glue gun, right? This works really nicely. Get your first penny. Put a dab of glue on there. Put the penny on top. Try to make sure they're nice and straight if you can. And the other thing next is you put a big glob there. You put your foam nose over the penny. Now you have to try to be careful here because the hot glue will melt the foam, and you want to try to keep those pennies as centered as possible, so just leave a little pressure on them for a little while. You can take this out now. You want the pennies to go on the inside, right? So that's what it's going to look like. Get the hot glue gun and put a nice bead on the inside of your rocket there. Right? Get a nice bead so it's all the way around. Get your nose cone and now just stick it in there, right? There you go. And let that dry. You want to squeeze a little bit, make sure it's all around, it's covered. And the reason it's important to do that is when you launch this, all the air pressure is going to want to push that out. So you need a really good seal around that nose cone so you don't have any of the air leaking and this doesn't want to come flying out. You can go ahead and take a pair of scissors and shape the nose cone to whatever you want, right? What you want to do is make your rocket aerodynamic as possible, right? There's your rocket. Hope you have fun. They're easy to do, really inexpensive. So enjoy launching. Thanks.